So today's webinar is on work order tips and tricks, and we're going to be covering a lot of information. So let's get started and we'll go into FrameReady, and this is FrameReady 12.0 V2 we're looking at right now. And I want to go directly to the work order section, but just before I go there, one of the tips that I want to give you is right off the bat in the options tab. So if you are the only person in the store, go ahead and put your name in there if you're the only one taking the orders. But if you're not and you have a list of other people in there, then my suggestion is leave it blank. Do not put your name in there. This forces people to sign it so that you know who took the order, who do I ask the questions. For today, I'm putting my name in there. We're going to go down to more options. This is a feature that people tend to use, but maybe not always, and that is the default options. Make sure on your list of defaults, and we have some new ones here too with the matte design and extra, that you do make sure that these are items that are available in the list view. Sometimes people will say that they have something in there and it doesn't generate a retail price for you. And the reason for that is when you click on it, it's not in your list. So you can see that nothing is highlighted here because this item is not in the price codes file. This is pulling up the items that are in the price codes file. So if you want to have a default, you need to select something that's in there. If the item you want isn't in there, go to the price codes file, add it in, and then it will appear on your drop-down list. So now that we've done that, there's also the matte margins, bottom weighting, there's that order taken by, price per window. And I like this one, the show orientation box, because it solves a lot of errors, that does some error trapping for you. One of the easiest mistakes for people to make is that when you're cutting out the matte board and you're bottom weighting something, that it can get cut the wrong way and you've wasted the matte board, it's costing you money. So just having that little box checked is going to make things easier for you. So now if we go into the work order screen, this is one of the things that people will sometimes have, and let me go to the very last record, find all, last record, using the yellow arrow. So now that I'm on the last record, I want to change this so that we know how to fix it. So if you've entered in the width and the height incorrectly, you'll see an error message appear in the screen. If there's something in red letters there, please address it. Attend to that error message. And this is so easy to fix. When you go over to the right-hand side of the screen, you're going to click on the little icon that's showing the orientation, and it'll give you the option that if the orientation is correct, go ahead and change it. If not, maybe it's the numbers that need to be transposed, in which case all you need to do is click on the swap button, and then it will swap those two numbers, which was much easier than me retyping all of those numbers. The other feature that's on here that may be overlooked are these gray arrows, so that if you have entered in a whole number and you know that you want to back out the image so that you want the matte board to appear over top of the image a little bit more, then you're going to use the down arrows, and it's going to decrease it by 1/16 of an inch. So if you want to do 1/16 on both sides, then you're going to click the down arrow twice. And if you want to change that, and you can use the up arrow to increase it. So it's just another little tip that's so easily overlooked, but really benefits you. Down here at the bottom of the screen, we have the inside frame dimensions, the outside frame dimensions, and those are going to be important in a few minutes. So we're going to move over to the molding section of the screen. And one of the tips I have for you is that if you hover over top of the description, you'll see a small tooltip pop up that says the required footage is 8.5 feet and the quantity I have on hand is 6 feet. And even if that was 9 feet on there, I'd still be checking my stock to make sure that it wasn't in pieces and that it was going to meet the size dimensions that I need, the measurements that I need for this. The other place that you can see that inventory is by clicking actually on the stacked frame icon as well, or on the underlined word frame 1. So that if I did click on the underlined word frame 1, I can see that it says quantity of 6 and the bin location of where it is stored. So if you've entered that information into the price codes file, you will see it on this screen. Moving down to another feature that people do tend to like to use. I'm just going to go back one record to show you that. And I'm going to take that, I'll go back one more record. We'll go over to this screen here. This is the blue box. And this is where you can just price something on the fly. Sometimes people will use it and say, I have a scrap of mat board that I just want to price on the fly, and you can type in the mat board number if you want, and then the retail price that you have for it, that you're going to charge the customer for that piece, and it will appear in there. Of course, there's no description. The other way to do that is using it for molding, and in the molding, if you're going to type in black frame that you're using, what's the retail price that you're going to charge for this, you do need to put in the molding width. It's really important that you enter that in so that it calculates everything else correctly. Now, the one thing about using this is that if you do enter something in there, it will not appear on your purchase orders, because this is something that we are assuming you have in stock or you're pricing it on the fly, but you haven't told the program who do you order it from, or any of that other information. So it will not appear on purchase orders. So just a little tip to know. The other thing that happens on here, let's go back to my last record, is that you may decide that you're framing something that's very large. Perhaps the measurements over on the right-hand side might be something like 60 inches by 50 inches or 45 inches. And you know that you really need 4 lengths in order to do this, but FrameReady is not going to calculate that. So if I was to click on a new, and we'll say it's vertical, and I'm going to say the width is going to be 60 inches, and then the height on this is going to be 45 inches. So, and I did it incorrectly. Great, I'll swap. Okay, so now over on the left-hand side of the screen, if I was to enter in a frame and I need to make sure that I want to order 4 rails for this, I can click on the underlined word frame 1. And now over here where it says that I'm going to order 18.5 feet, I know that I really want to order more footage than what it's calculating. And this is an override feature where I can type in the amount of footage that I really am going to order for that, or whatever it is that you decide that you're going to order. But every time I do that, you can see at the top of the screen that the numbers change up there. So it's going to recalculate the retail price based on the footage that you're actually going to order to do that piece. So that's just another little tip for you on calculating that. The other thing that could happen is that you may decide on, and we'll just delete that one and go back to our other one. Okay, form view, last record. Okay, taking a look at this, one of the things that may happen is that I may look at that first frame that I've calculated and the retail price is here at $159, but I know that I need to charge a little bit more, or the customer, I'm going to give them a little bit of a deal, or something, I want to change the price. And sometimes people just say, I want to make that 160. There's a box here called, it's the code price, and this is usually used in Canada, and we use that for code-based pricing for the supplier suggested retail price matrix. But if I type a number into that field, it's going to override the amount that's in the price at the top, and now that is the amount that I am charging. So I can change that to be any amount that I want, and it's going to override the price. If I take that amount out, then it's going to put it back to the regular price. The other thing that could happen is that if you change this and you re-look up that item to have it look up the molding again, it will put in the original price for you. So if you decide you don't want that in and you want to go back to the original price, there are several different ways that you can do that. The next thing that I want to take a look at is the underlined words in all the other screens. So when you're in that frame 1 screen, or you go down to mat design or mount stretch, people say, I want to add in more than just one item. And of course, if you needed a double thickness of the foam core, that's easy. You're just going to put in the number 2 here to double the thickness or double the quantity that you're using. If there's nothing in the box, it's assumed that it's the number 1. But sometimes you may want to add in additional charges. So you could go to the underlined word, and that's where you can add in that we're going to do a fillet fit as well, or that we want to add in a labor charge of 1 hour, and maybe it isn't the full 1 hour. I only want to charge for 3/4 of an hour, so I can change that to 0.75, or if I just want to charge for half an hour, then I can change that to 0.5 and it'll calculate that as well. Once I've entered in multiple items on that screen, it's going to show a small arrow reminding you that there are more than one item, there are more than one item in that list. So that's where the total is coming from. It's not just from that one. And as I mentioned before, when we look at that labor and assembly, if I want to delete those items that are in here, you'll notice that there isn't a retail price calculated for that. That's again because it is not in the drop-down list. So when I created this work order, labor and assembly was still in the default. And of course, it did not generate a retail price. So what I need to do is click on that field and now select the item that I want to charge. And that corrects the problem. So if you do notice something that's blank in there, that's probably what's happened. The next thing that we want to do is if we wanted to do the same sort of pricing override on one of these other items. And when you do click on these fields, the underlined word, you can see that there are tabs across the top of the screen. So you can move through the tabs in here instead of going back to the work order screen and then clicking on the tab that you want. So now that I'm in here and I'm thinking I would like to override the price of the glass. And of course I could give a discount, and the discount's available on all of these underlined screens in different locations. But if I wanted to change the retail price on this item, the way to do that is to go down to the code price. Remember, we used code price on frame 1. So if I go to code price here, my choice is usually to use the code by XY because that's usually what people are using. So I would change that and change the dollar value. And once I've done that, you can see that the price has changed up at the top of the screen. The only time that I would probably want to use the price by square is if this box is checked and that's the price that we're using is the price by square. Then I can go in here and change that to the amount that I want, but we're not using that one. So we're going back to whatever this is. Okay, and I can change the number. If I want to go back to the original item, all I have to do is reselect conservation clear, and it puts the original retail price back in there for me. So that makes it easy to find those. Now, if I wanted to enter a discount on any of the other items, and I'm going to go to the fillet, because one of the great things that somebody told me once was that they decided to give a discount on all the fillets that they were using. And then what happened was when the person came back, again, now that they don't have the sale on, they still liked the design and the look of the fillet and they wanted to do it, but now it was at regular price. So if you do want to place a fillet in with a frame, of course, it's going to go in with the stacked frames over on the left-hand side. And you can just click on the insert button to type in the fillet number that you want. And if you want to give them a discount for this, the discount field is just down at the bottom here. You can follow that line all the way across to discount. And if you enter in a discount on just that fillet, that's the only thing that is being discounted. So it's not a discount on the entire order, just on this fillet. And I know you're going to ask if that's going to show up on the printed invoice. No, it won't. The only way that you're going to see that discount on the individual item is if you were to give them under the print list the detailed summary. And then it would show that discount is going to be listed in there. And there it is. There's the discount on the fillet down here at the bottom. So that's the only way that you're going to actually see that one little discount. But it is a great tool still that you can use. If it's going to be, let's just go back in here. I'm going to take that out of there, remove that. Everything's going to slide over one. There we go. And we're going back again. If you wanted to enter the fillet in here for the mats, you're going to use this field and enter the fillet into this portion. So if you do, one of the things that will happen is that it may actually change the amount of the top mat, and you may want to adjust that. And you can do that here, where you can say adjust the top mat margin and say, I really want that top mat margin to be 2 inches, and you can apply it. And now it's recalculated everything and remembered that it had a bottom weight on it. But I'm going to remove it from there and go back. And the other place that you can adjust that is over here on the right-hand side. So you can click actually right on that. I know it doesn't look like a button, but that actually is the button. And if you were to click on that, then you could change the top mat to another number, and it's going to recalculate all of your measurements over on the right-hand side, including the bottom weighting. Okay, so if you do want to go back and change that, you can just put it back to whatever it was previously. Just in this case, you'll have to remember what the number is. The other thing that you would want to make sure about is that when you're in the fillet field here, double check that size. And if the size of the fillet is incorrect, because sometimes they will actually put the full size in there of the fillet, not just the size that's going to be visible when you're framing it, you will need to go over to the modify button to change that amount. When you change it here, because you're in the pink screen, it's changing it permanently, so that the next time somebody enters this in, it's going to be correct and you don't have to worry about it. So that's just a little way of making sure everything's correct for the future moving forward, and that's a fast and easy way to do it. Okay, fit and frame, the correct glazing size. Down here, because we have 3 frames that are entered in, the glass is being fitted into the lip of the first frame right now. If in my design I decided that I wanted the glass to be fitted into the lip of the 3rd frame, then over here there's a drop down box, and when I click on it I can select that it's going to be fitted into the lip of the 3rd frame. Right now our retail price is $34.60, and it may actually change the price because I'm actually using a larger piece of glass now to fit into the 3rd frame than I was fitting into the 2nd frame or even into the 1st frame. So that's a way to make sure that your glass size is being calculated on the inside lip of the frame that it's actually going to fit into. Going down to the bottom of the screen, and I was playing with that beforehand, let me show you that in the multi-angle field, the purpose for this field was usually if we were doing octagonal frames, multiple sides, and what it would do, it would take everything that's on this list and add on a percentage, because everything had to be recut or modified in the pricing of this. So we found this was a great place to add in a rush fee, so that if you wanted to, somebody's asking you to do something quickly now, a rush fee on this particular order where there are 3 frames, double mats plus a fillet, is going to be higher than a rush charge that's going to be added onto a frame where there isn't as much. So now if I was to add that same percent in, it's only going to be a small amount, because that fee is based on the total of the amount up here. Okay, so if we go back to the original one that we were looking at, you could have multiples of these as well. So, you know, if they're asking for something, you know, half of your time frame or next, or even if it's the same day or next day. So you could have additional higher charges for those items if somebody's asking you to put everything else on hold and just work solely on theirs. You could also use a rush charge in the extra, or just, you know, put it down here under the edit button for the other field and then add in whatever you want to charge. And that's just another way of doing it. I find that using the drop-down list is fast, easy, and it's calculating out exactly what I want to calculate out. Some people don't use the other field as much, and I'm going to say that this is a great place not only for if you had multiple openings to add in here. So let's say we're putting in a fillet, and we have multiple openings, and this same fillet is going to be 4 by 5, and there are 3 of those fillets that are going to be fitted into the piece that we're doing. Then I would want to be able to calculate the price on all 3 of those fillets and have them totaled up. So that's how I would do that. You can also use this for Plexi boxes if you're doing a Plexi box, because when you create that item, you actually have 3 different dimensions. Moving back to the work order screen, down here in the bottom left corner is that button, or that little piece of information that people tend to overlook sometimes, and that is the cost of materials that are being used. So it's not the cost of the materials that you're purchasing, it's the cost of the materials that are being used. And in the top right hand corner is the retail price, and down in the bottom left hand corner is that little tip to let you know, if that number in the lower left corner becomes too close to the retail price in the top right-hand corner, then you may want to adjust your pricing a little bit. A lot of times people can use the other box if it's not being used for something else to add in a little extra amount, an extra charge to bring it up. The other button on here that people sometimes overlook is the scenarios button. And if you haven't used this, it's a fantastic tool for comparing pricing. So that if the original design that they came up with was this design, and now they've changed the glass to conservation clear, you can see how much the difference is in total on the other items as well. And then you can save each one of these scenarios and add them in. And then if you decide that you want to go with a previous design, then you can restore that design and have it appear on the list. Now, the other thing that you might want to do is print this out. But if you were deciding to print this out, it gives an awful lot of information on here. It tells you the item number, and if they were to take this to somebody else and compare it, you may not want to give away your design, but you still want them to see the different scenarios that you've compiled here. So one of the things you can do is place your mouse over top of the printer icon, press down on the Shift key on your keyboard, and that will print out a blind scenario design. So it just says frame 1, 2, and 3, and maybe another one might just be a frame, a regular frame. So it gives you the pricing breakdown so they can make a choice. If you wanted to handwrite on there, you know, black frame, gold frame, museum glass, high quality glass, just to help them. Or they might do that themselves even to be able to decide which one that they liked the best. So we'll go back to and say done. The other nice thing about that is that if somebody came back to you and said, well, I'm pretty sure that I picked that fillet to go in here, and you could say, yes, you did. It was in one of the designs that we looked at. However, you didn't choose to go with that design. This is the one that you chose to go with. We can add that fillet in if you want. So those are just some of the tips that we've got in the lower portion of the screen. So now what I'd like to do is we've got a poll that Chrissy's going to run, and we'll see if there are any questions as well. So Chrissy, do you have the poll?
I'm going to launch the poll now, and I do have a few questions for you. So our first question is, when fitting glass to third frame, how does that appear on the work order to ensure correct glazing size is cut?
I believe that what it's going to do is that there is on the work order, there is a line in the box where you have the icon, and it says glazing size. And so it changes the dimensions in that to say what the dimensions are for the glazing. So that's on the printed work order. It will show you the actual size for the glass.
All right, I'm going to close the poll so we can see the answers, and then we'll ask the next questions.
Okay.
And I'll share the results.
There we go. Oh, good. Okay. Yep, so it's nice to see. I put some of the popular ones up there to see if people are using them. So that's great to see that people are using those features.
Yeah.
Excellent.
I'm going to hide that. We'll go on to the next questions.
Okay.
Is there a solution in the other field if the work order quantity is more than one?
No. So that's one of those things that if the work order quantity is multiplied, then in the other field, it's, well, there are some things you can do actually. So if I was to put a fillet in here, or I'm doing some printing or something else, and let me just put a size in there to go to, and then I'm going to say done, because one of the things you can do is you can constrain to 1 and to say that this is a one-time charge only. The constrain to 1 button is usually used for something like shipping, if you've got a shipping fee that you're going to use. So over here, you might say that you're going to use a shipping fee, and you only want that shipping fee multiplied in one time. You don't want it multiplied by the quantity that's in the top right-hand corner. So use the constrain to 1, and then that will make sure that it's only a one-time, it's not doubled. And you can see now that that's a one-time fee. There's only one fillet in one of the designs, I guess, or whatever it is that you're doing. And then everything else is multiplied by 2 up here.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, our next question. Is there a way that the cost of materials used is the materials purchased? I've always thought it was cost on the project minus labor.
No, it's actually calculating out the amount of material that you're using. So in one of these cases, if this was a quarter of a sheet of the mat board, then it's going to cost it out for the quarter of a sheet that's being used, not for the full mat, because there's no way that the program knows if you had to order in a full mat or if you already had that mat in stock, because it's something that you do stock. So it's calculating it out based on the materials used, not the materials that were purchased.
Okay, we have one last question.
Okay.
If there are 5 work orders for a client and you want to show scenarios, is there a way to show all on one sheet rather than 5 sheets?
So what you're saying is that you have 5 different work orders, and each of those 5 different work orders have scenarios. And the answer is no, you can't put them all onto one sheet. Basically, because when you do get to the scenarios, they're basing it off of the work order number, and it's pulling that number together. So that might be a great idea for something in the future that we could try.
Okay, that's all of our questions.
Okay, excellent. Then we're going to move into the mats section. One of the things that I wanted to talk about was this magnifying glass. And I know some people use it and some people don't, but when you're looking for that, using that magnifying glass, you could put in either the B or the C for the mat board. I like to sometimes just type in a color if you're looking for a color. Of course, they may have called blue sapphire instead of blue, but that still does help. Or if you want something by a specific supplier. And of course, you can always make sure that it's a current item rather than something that's discontinued. And then you'll get the list of all the other items that you may want to choose from. So you can select anything from that list. The magnifying glass over here works great for finding those extra items. One of the features that some people may not be aware of, though, is this little box here, and that is the reverse bevel. So that if I was putting a fillet in with the second mat, then I may want to mark it to say that there is a reverse bevel on this because the fillet is going to fit into there. And that will print onto the printed work order beside that mat. And once again, when you have entered something in and there's information that's missing, that red message is going to appear there until you have selected the item that needs to be addressed and addressed that. Now, the other icon on here that sometimes is overlooked is this one, and that's a spacer. And what it does is it tells it, and it will print out onto the work order again, that a spacer needs to be added in between these 2 mats. It does not charge for that spacer. You would still want to go to extras to select some spacer that you're going to put in, because this isn't a charge, it's just identifying where it's going to go. So it's just more information for the framer so that they can see what needs to be done. And if we click on the work order icon for that, you can see where it says add spacer over here, and then this is the one that has the reverse bevel cut. So both of those will appear on the printed work order and are very helpful to make sure that everything is done exactly the way that it should be done. So the other thing is that we could do, and actually I already mentioned that, was the changing the reveal in the orange area here, so that if you wanted to make the top mat be 2 inches, then you just click on that, type in the number 2, and it recalculates all of the measurements over on the right-hand side. So let's move up to the artwork section now. And this is one of the ones that people tend not to use. They usually just leave it as artwork and then type in the word poster into the description over here. If you have selected the word from this drop-down list and you can customize this list, add items in there, it is not sorted alphabetically for you. So you will need to change items in there. If you click on the edit button, one of the things that you can do if you need to move something to a different section, so let's say I wanted to move watercolor up to here, what I can do is create a space for it, highlight the item, and then drag it up. And it's not doing it for me today. Maybe it's because my mouse is too large on my screen. So you can move it to wherever you want and then remove the space and change it. The hyphen is what you can enter in to separate things out if you wanted to create a line going across. And I'm going to cancel that so that when you look on this list, you can see that there's a separation line for some services that we are doing along with the different types of framing that we frame. So if you leave it at artwork, there's a report that you can get that's going to be amazing, but if you leave it as artwork, it's not going to be very beneficial. And that word poster is going to appear on the printed work order over in the top left corner. So it'll say poster, giclée, print, card, whatever it is that you happen to be framing. So that, again, just gives the framer the rest of the information that they need and saves you some time so that you don't have to type that out. So let's go over to the next thing that we want to take a look at, and that's the location field over on the right-hand side. And again, it's just a matter of using that hyphen to separate things out. In the top portion, you may want to have places where it's framed before it's framed, the art has been placed, after it's framed, and it's ready. You could even have the word ready in here as a search field down at the bottom, so that if you're looking for everything that's ready, you don't have to type in ready 1, 2, or 3. Down here, I've got items that are used in the product file. So whether the product is on display or it's been returned to the artist. So this is used in both locations, this list, the product file and in the location field. So you can change that. Now there are 2 fields on here, the value of the art as well as the price of the art. And if you had some art on display and you were going to frame it, and you just decided that you were going to type in the price of the art, it's going to be added to the unit price up here. It's not going to be appearing on its own separate line. Okay, you want to use the magnifying glass for the art if you're going to add art from inventory. And then what you would do is you would type in the item number or look for it by description in order to find it and have the art added in. Then the price will appear separately rather than all in one. And maybe what I should do is just put one of them in there. So usually you know the name of the piece and you can search for it, and it's going to put the price in, and you can see that the price is separate now. It's not in the same location. However, if a customer has brought in a piece of art and you want to identify what the value of the art is, then in that case you would use the value of the art field. It is not going to appear any place over here on the pricing structure. It's just telling you and anybody else who's working with that piece of art that it's rather valuable. Be careful with separate on there. And that's when you can choose to say, if I do discount this piece, I'm not going to apply the discount to the art, or I do want to apply the discount to the art, sorry. If you check that box, the discount will be applied to the art. Okay, so normally it would not. So tips for the artist now. If this was an artist that I would be working with and I want them to appear in my drop-down list. So I'm going to go back to this other record instead. So I've got an artist that came in, they've got something. If it's isn't an artist that is in my drop-down list already, and it's somebody I haven't heard of, I don't want them to appear in my list, it's not an artist that I'm really going to track, then you can type in their name into the field. And actually I'll use, okay, so now I have an artist in the field, and if I click on the drop-down list, that artist is not in my drop-down list. They can't find them, so they won't be in there. So if I was to go to another record and try to look at the drop-down list, you'll notice that Amy isn't in the list. So that's a way to prevent my list from becoming bogged down with names that are a one-time thing. If I want the person to appear in the list, then what I would do is I would click on the underlined word artist, and now when I click OK, that artist is now added to my drop-down list. And they will be there, and this reassures me that the name's going to be spelled correctly all the time, and I don't have a lot of different items in there that I shouldn't have in there. And in another video, we'll have to cover how to clean those names out, okay, so that you can remove them. There's also the condition field over here on the right-hand side. And I know people have asked and said that, I wanted to select something from the list, but I wanted to select more than one item. And what I've done is I've held down the Command key on my keyboard, and that allows me to select a few different items And when I click OK, they all appear in the list. Now the thing is, they're vertically on this list and I want them to be horizontal. So in that case, I may want to put a comma or a space in between them and just separate them out so that when they appear on the printed work order, now they will have all of the items listed in a line. If I leave them in that vertical fashion, it's only going to show brittle and maybe the top part of faded, and that'll be it. So I want to document that. Of course, one of the best things to do is just take a picture and add that picture in of the damage that's been done, as well as having the text in there to identify it. If we move up to the customer field, I want to point out that there are two note fields in FrameReady. There's the note field down here, and this note field has to do with the work order. It does appear printed on the work order. The note field up here in the customer block is a note specifically about this customer. It will not appear printed anywhere, but it does appear on the invoice screen and the work order screen. So that if you need to put a tip in there that says no checks, must pay in full, a VIP customer, any of those things that you need to know right away, that's going to appear on the screen once you've entered the customer information in. But it will not print anywhere. So it's okay for whatever you need to type in there or whatever little codes you want to type in. One of the things that you have in your contact file, of course, if I'm on Sarah Wallace's record and I go to the contact file, it's going to go directly to her record so that I can see any previous notes that I've had about her or what else she's had framed. But also, if on the contact file you have selected that this is a return to sender, okay, that email address doesn't work, then in the new version of FrameReady, in FrameReady 12, you'll see that it will show the email address in red to let you know that, oh, wait a minute, the email address is incorrect. If I need to change it, I can click right on that screen and make the change to whatever it needs to be to correct the error, or they have a different email address that it's now Sarah W. That she's using. But if you need to add a new item in, and of course it still says return to sender, so I do need to go back here and change that to say that is your home email. There we go, and now I've corrected it. Then if I need to add a new one in, I could use this to add the new one in, the plus sign, and then I could go back and delete the one that was the return to sender, and that might be a better way to do it, perhaps. Okay. Same thing, it's the plus on the telephone that's going to be adding in the other customers' phone numbers. If you do just type in all 10 digits, then it will automatically put the formatting in for you. If you find that you've added something in and you've gotten in an extra digit, then it will give you an error message. And all you need to do to fix that is to clean out whatever the extra digit is, and it will reformat itself correctly. Okay, so we're on our time now for another poll and answer any other questions that come up. So Chrissy, you're up.
All right, I'm going to launch our next poll, and it's which features do or will you use, but with different answers from before.
Mm-hmm.
And while you guys are doing this poll, I'm going to ask these questions that you have for Carol. How would I apply? I don't see the whole question. How would I apply a different discount to the art if I apply discounts to other materials and services by line item?
Okay. So if you did want to discount the art, there's two things. If the art, and this is only applying if the art is one of your pieces of art that you have in stock already, could go to the products file, and in there's a sale field that you can put a discount in. However, if you decide that you wanted to give a discount just on the art, I'm not sure that you would be able to do that without discounting the rest of the work order. So it's very difficult to do that just here. The other option that you have is that you wait until you get to the invoice screen, because once you're on the invoice screen, you have both of those items listed separately, the framing, and then the art is listed directly below it. And you can put a discount in on that line for the art, and then only the art would be discounted. Chrissy?
All right, I'm going to close the poll and share the results.
Okay. Oh, reverse bevels, yeah. Oh, good. The orange, yeah. Okay.
All right.
Excellent. All right. Yeah. And so you could start using that artwork field over here on the left-hand side. There's an amazing report that's in the work order screen right there. It's going to give you some great information, and you can see that on one of our other videos that we've done. So, and called Analyzing Prices. So take a look at that. So moving on, we're going to go up to this tab section at the top, the Order tab. The Due Date button is one of those things that you might overlook as well. This says that there are 4 work orders that are all going to be done, completed on the same date. And if somebody wants to have something added in on that date and you're thinking, okay, what else do I have that's coming up? Because I might have something really labor intensive on that date. I might not want to have it on there. You can click on that number that's in the box, and it'll ask you, you sure you want to do this? We're going to say okay, and now it's going to find the other orders that are in that list. So then you can take a look at them and say, okay, yeah, this says 4, and I know you're probably thinking I only saw 3 in the list, but it's counting the quantity here, so it's 4 items. So that's really helpful, especially if you had 16 here and 1 and 1 there. So that gives you a chance to see what else needs to be done and make a decision on that. The calendar also, if you decide that you wanted to change the date of one of these to be today's date rather than the date that's on there, rather than using the little arrows to the right, because it's always going to go to the 17th on each one of those every time you do that. So what you would want to do is just down at the bottom is the word today. Click on the word today. It puts in today's date. And that makes it easier for you. Or same thing up here, do that. And then now that I've done that, let's go over here to the design by field. A lot of times people will say that I'm the person that took the order, but I'm also the person who designed it. And that isn't the purpose of the design by field. The purpose of the design by field is so that you can track if the interior designer you're working with is worth the discount that you're giving them, and you can put their name in there, so you'll have it in there, or track promotions that you're running. Just say, okay, I ran a promotion, and here's where I would say I want to find, clicking on the find button at the top. We had a promotion that we ran, and the date for that promotion was the month of October. I'm going to put an asterisk in there so that it doesn't matter, you know, what date it was, but all the promotions that were handled on that date for that month. And perform fine. And these are all the orders that came in from that promotion that we ran. And then if you have a newer version of FrameReady, you can click on to see the total, how much money came in. So nearly $5,000 came in from that promotion. How much did I spend on that promotion? So then you can do some math to figure out, okay, was it worth the promotion that I ran? Or if you want to see how many orders came in total, okay, then you can do the same search for date, or if you wanted, and you would get all of them, including the promotion ones, or you can say add a new request and omit all of the ones that were the promotions. And now you have a list of how many orders came in without those promotions. So we have $8,000 coming in without the promotions. So it gives you a chance to track the information and see, you know, is it doing what you want it to do? Okay, and was the promotion worthwhile? So I'm going to go back to find all, list view. Let's go to the last record that we were looking at again. And the other one that I really want to let people be aware of is the difference between these 2 buttons up at the top. The find button, it will zone in on exactly what you want, whereas the magnifying glass is searching every single field on the work order. So that if I was looking for a work order by Taylor, and this would be helpful to me if I couldn't remember if the person's name was Taylor, the first name, or it was their last name, but it's going to search every single field. So when it does this, I'm going to get this big long list, and I'm thinking, why is Hector coming up on this list when I'm looking for Taylor? Okay, that's because Taylor is the street name. And as I said, it searches every single field on here, the fields you can see, the fields you can't see. So if you're looking for somebody with the last name of Taylor, click the find field, okay, and type the name in, and then you're going to find them, or their first name is Taylor. So whenever you can, always use the find field on the screen and type the information into the exact field that you want, because then you're going to get better results. Use the magnifying glass when you don't know, okay, when you can't remember something, okay. That's the best way to do it. Use the find field whenever possible. There's also the job number button over here on the right hand side as well that we're going to take a look at. Going back to that last record, going to the last one here, we're looking at, I had 3 orders for Sarah Wallace, and if I look at my list of incompletes, and she's down here at the bottom, so and there's one for Sarah Wallace there. And I had them on the same date, but then I changed this date. So if you have somebody who comes in for one day and they want to put things together onto the same invoice, FrameReady by design will find anything for the same customer on the same date and put them automatically onto the same invoice. But in this case, I want to batch those 2 orders with this 3rd one down at the bottom. So what I'm going to do, and I have not posted these to invoice yet, and that's a key point, is that I want to add in a job number. And if I click on the job number button at the top of the screen, it shows me the job numbers that I've used. If you start at the top and work your way down, you'll have to just keep scrolling down. I can also work my way up. So 9985 is the one I want to use. So you choose which job number you want, and I'm just going to copy that and go to the next order for Sarah and paste it in there. Go to the next order for Sarah and paste it in there. And now that all 3 of those have the same job number, when I post them to invoice, it will find all 3 of them and put them onto the same invoice. I can click on the number 3 here by the quantity field, and it finds just those 3 orders that are all grouped together by that job number, even though they have different dates, even if they had different names on them. So something might be for the personal, for the office, or 2 designers came in and the 3rd one, but it's all for the same company or the same hospital, the same board, and you can put them all onto the same invoice that way. If we go back to the screen for the work order, and like I said, so easy to change that. So let's get rid of any error messages that are appearing. And now what I want to do is I want to take a look at some of the buttons that are over on the left-hand side. So if something has been posted to invoice, and I could find anything that has been posted already just by saying find something that's been posted, perform find. Let me go down to the last record. So if I find a record that has, there we go, Mary Poplar, there she is, and there's my shipping fee, and I had on there $5, but it turned out that it was really going to be, let's say, $20. So you're going to see up here at the top, it's going to change the amount. We've added in $20 now for the shipping fee. So I want to go, and I think that's set to the do not tax. Okay. Otherwise, it's just going to add it into the total up at the top here. So at the top here, we've got 652 now instead of the previous number. So when I click on the posted button on the left-hand side, it's going to ask me, do you want to update the invoice? And I'm going to say yes. Okay, and it's automatically changed that amount. And when I'm done here, if I want to, I can click on the go button to go back directly just to that one order. And so now my found set is 1 of 1, and this is the only order that I'm looking at. The other thing that you can do on here is if you decide that you want to use the fit in Readymade button on the left-hand side of the screen. So someone has purchased a ready-made frame that they have for you, and they know what the dimensions are of the art that they want to have framed, but you don't know what the mat board margins are going to be. So if I go over to the left-hand side of the screen and click on Fit in Ready-Made, now I can enter in the dimensions of the frame. Okay, and then over on the right-hand side, I can choose to center the window, and it's going to calculate out the dimensions, or I can make the top and bottom and sides, sorry, the top and sides the same amount. Whatever you decide, when you click the Done button, it's going to take those mat board calculations and enter them into FrameReady on the work order. So it's over on the right-hand side. The other button that's really helpful is the fit to outside dimensions, where you know that you want the outside dimensions to be a specific size. And then if you decide to enter them in over on the left-hand side here, and I've got 3 frames stacked, but I think that should be fine. Let's go ahead and say that we want the outside dimensions to be 30 by 25. So we're going to make it larger than what it is. And usually you would use this if you were framing a mirror. So then it's recalculated the size on this. And then I would have my mirror in there. So if we said brand new record, it's going to be horizontal. My preference would be enter the frame in first before you enter in the size for the fit to outside, because now that I have the frame in there, when I click on fit to outside, it's going to automatically calculate the dimensions out for me for the mirror that's going to be used. But what if I want to change that? I've typed in 20 by 20, but I really meant to say 21 by 22 or whatever it is. I can move over to the left-hand side of the screen, and I'm going to hold down the Shift key on the keyboard. And when I click on that, it's going to bring up the dimensions again. So now I can change them to a different number, and it's going to recalculate it again. If I change the frame to a different frame, okay, then it's put the size in for that frame. If I want it to go back to the outside dimensions, all I need to do is click back on that button for the outside dimensions, and now it has recalculated it. So that's using the Fit to Outside Dimensions button. Moving along to the Cancel Frame Order. If this item is going to be ordered, it'll show you that Cancel Frame Order button on the left-hand side. So if this is a frame that I have in stock and I don't need to order it, I already have the glass, the mirror that I'm going to be pricing out. I don't need to order anything that's on here. I can actually choose to cancel this, and then it will not appear on a purchase order anywhere. So that has been canceled. It doesn't need to be ordered. Okay, but if I made a mistake and I actually do need to receive this, I do want to order it, even though I have 15 feet in stock, then I would move back over to the left-hand side and say select for frame order. So if you ran your purchase order and you decide, oh, you know, I wanted to have this, I deleted it off of the current purchase order, I want to order it again later, then you can come back and say select for frame order. Are you sure you want to add this into the next frame order? You're going to say yes. And the tip is the button tells you what it's going to do. So if you click on this button, it will cancel your frame order, which means that this is going to be ordered right now. So the question is, do you want to cancel it? And that's the tip. So the same thing as the others. The button tells you what it's going to do. Do you want to post to the invoice? Do you want to fit into a Readymade? Do you want to cancel the frame order? So the next thing I want to show you is a button that you may not even know it's there. Over on the right-hand side of the screen, this is actually a button. So when you click on the total, it's going to show you a price map. And you can actually print this out if you want. And this shows you just basically, some people use it as a way to glance quickly to say, did I get everything? Do I need to change any settings to say, no, I didn't want that to be taxed, or it should be taxed, or do not tax. So you can change those settings right on this screen as well. And that's the price map, and that's available when you click on the total button. Again, we have used this one, the lock price button up in the top right-hand corner. If you lock the price, you can type in any amount that you want. If you unlock the price, it'll go back, but when you lock it again, it'll ask you if you want to go back to the amount that you had typed in previously, or do you want to enter in a new one? So if I went back to the saved one, it would go back to the 200. So that's the lock price button and how that one's going to work. The calculator up at the top is a great feature. I'm going to go back down to Sarah's record, find all, last record, go back one to Sarah. There we go, because she has 3 orders that we've put together. And if I wanted to know the total of all 3 of those orders, all I need to do is click on the calculator right at the top of the screen. And that's going to tell me for those 3 orders what the total is. And this is really handy if you've got a person who came in and they had 2 orders and they wanted to know if they should go ahead and have the 3rd one done right now. So there you go, there's the total of all 3 of those orders. Even if they're from, if there are other orders in between, it's going to find it based on same customer, same day, or if you've used the job number to batch them together. The other thing to point out is under the Options tab, there are two discount fields. There is a percentage discount field, which you were talking about with the whether it applies to the art or not, but there's also a dollar discount field. If I give a percentage discount, it's going to tell you how much the discount is going to give the customer back, okay? And it shows you, and if this was a quantity of 1, let's just put that back to 1 for a moment so it's easier for you to see. This is the quantity of 1, and that's the discounted price. However, if I give a dollar discount instead, and I decide to give them $50 off, okay, it's not going to show that dollar discount, the difference over here. It's just the way the program works because it's not calculating it. It's taking it off the total. It's not taking it off of a percentage of amount or individual items. So that's the way that those two fields work. And you need to just choose which one you want. The other thing is looking at the list view screen, there is a great box here. It is the marked box. And if you wanted to find all the records that you have marked, and you can mark them for any reason. Say I wanted to double check the sizes on these items. And then as I've double checked the sizes on them, I can go back and click on Find Marked. And now I know which ones I need to work on. Or I want to compare these together for a reason. So whatever reason you have, the marked box is a great way of finding just a small selection of items rather than looking at everything in your list and trying to run through them that way. While you're in the list view, you have the ability with those underlined words to sort them out. If you want to sort them out by description, or if you want to sort them out by name. If you want to do some sort of a custom sort though, go up to the top right hand corner and say, I want to sort this out by the customer's name, and then by the description, and then when it does the sort, their pieces are alphabetically listed. So you can sort them by anything you want, including the due date. But if you want to undo that sort, all you need to do is click on the Unsort button in the top right hand corner. So it makes it a little bit easier for you. Right. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.